The starlit void of uncharted space cast the Vanguard into silhouette as it navigated near a dying star. Inside the command bridge, Captain Aiden Shaw surveyed the star charts, his crew's murmurs a constant background hum. "Captain, you're going to want to see this," Lieutenant Harlan, his second-in-command, called out. Aiden turned, approaching the main console where Harlan pointed to a blip on the screen. "It's a ship, sir, but it's not responding to hails. Looks abandoned," Harlan reported, adjusting his glasses to better view the data. "Origin?" Aiden asked, peering at the readings. "Unknown. No match from the database, but its design. It's Zelthor, I'd wager." The word Zelthor caused a ripple of tension. The Zelthor Empire was notorious for its disdain for trespassers and outsiders, especially humans. "Could be a trap," muttered Jenkins, the ship's engineer from his station. Aiden considered this, then made his decision. "We're checking it out. Prepare for a close pass. Harlan, Jenkins, gear up. You're with me. Let's find out if there are survivors." Minutes later, suited up and tethered, the trio moved through the vacuum towards the ghostly vessel. Its hull bore scars of battle, and the insignia of the Zelthor royal family was emblazoned prominently, a clear sign of its importance. Once inside, they activated their helmet lights, casting eerie shadows through the corridors. The ship was silent except for the sound of their own breathing and the occasional crackle of comms. "This place is a tomb," Jenkins whispered, his voice echoing slightly over the comms. "Keep sharp," Aiden instructed, leading the way to the main deck. They passed through what looked like a battle site, with signs of a skirmish littering the floors, spent energy casings and damaged panels. Reaching the command center, Harlan accessed the ship's fading logs. "Looks like there was an internal conflict. Some sort of coup, maybe. The last entry was logged 3 days ago." As they delved deeper, they found the crew, or what was left of them. Each member of the Royal Guard was ceremonially laid out, their wounds evidently fatal and deliberate. Then, in the royal chamber, they found her. The princess, if the regal attire was anything to go by, was slumped against a control panel, her breathing shallow. "She's alive," Aiden announced, checking her vitals. Despite their mission of exploration and reconnaissance, the human instinct to aid took precedence. "Princess Illyria, I presume," Harlan said, looking over her ornate, though damaged armor. "We can't just leave her here," Jenkins argued, his voice a mix of concern and caution. Aiden nodded, already making the decision. "We're taking her with us." "But sir, the Zelthors, if they find out we've taken their princess..." "They won't find out. We'll keep her safe and figure out our next move once we're out of here," Aiden said, his tone leaving no room for argument. With Harlan's help, Aiden carefully lifted the unconscious princess, her head resting against his shoulder as they made their way back to the Vanguard. As the ship pulled away from the derelict, Aiden looked back at the fading silhouette of the royal vessel. Whatever the consequences, he knew he couldn't have left her to die in the cold expanse of space. His crew trusted him, and his gut told him this was the right thing to do. Yet as the stars blurred into the lines of hyperspace, Aiden couldn't shake the feeling that this rescue might just be the beginning of something far greater and more dangerous. Back aboard the Vanguard, tension hung in the air thicker than the remnants of cold coffee that floated in zero gravity in the crew's mess. Captain Aiden Shaw led the way to the medical bay, where Princess Illyria was now under the cautious care of Dr. Lena Reed, the ship's medical officer. As they approached, Dr. Reed met them at the door, her expression serious. "She's stable, but barely. I've done what I can with our limited resources," she said, her voice tinged with concern. "She needs proper medical facilities." "Thank you, Lena. Keep her under observation and let me know the minute she wakes up," Aiden responded, peering through the glass at the alien princess, her breathing assisted by machines. He turned to face his senior officers, assembled just outside the medical bay. "We have a decision to make," he began, his gaze shifting from one face to the next. "We can drop her at the nearest Federation outpost and risk an interstellar incident. She's royalty, Aiden," Harlan interrupted, his brows furrowed in worry. "The Zelthors won't take kindly to humans meddling with their nobility." Jenkins, arms crossed, nodded in agreement. "Not to mention, if her people wanted her dead, there's nothing stopping them from finishing the job in a less direct manner." Aiden sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I'm aware of the risks, but there's also the possibility of returning her to her people as a gesture of goodwill. Maybe it could be a step towards easing tensions with the Zelthor Empire." Silence fell over the group, each member lost in their own thoughts about the possible diplomatic repercussions. It was Mika, the communications officer, who finally broke the silence. We could try to communicate with the Zelthor authorities, offer to return her in exchange for a dialogue. It's a long shot, but if it works, it could mean a new beginning for human-Zelthor relations. Aiden considered this, his gaze settling on the young officer. Mika, prepare a message to the Zelthor Empire. Frame it carefully. We don't want them to think we're holding her hostage. Turning back to the group, he added, but we're not making any moves until she wakes up. I want to hear her side of the story. It might give us more clarity on how to proceed. The crew nodded, though the weight of the decision was not lost on any of them. As they dispersed, Aiden stayed back, watching Illyria through the glass. Her face, serene yet alien, seemed to betray none of the turmoil that likely awaited them all. Hours later, as the stars outside the viewport shifted and danced, Illyria's eyes fluttered open. Aiden, who had been sitting by her side, stood up as she looked around, confusion etched across her features. "You're safe," he said gently, trying to offer some comfort despite the uncertainty of their situation. "Where am I?" Her voice was weak, her accent thick and unfamiliar. "On a human ship. I'm Captain Aiden Shaw. You were injured and my crew found you aboard your ship. We brought you here to help," he explained slowly, watching her reactions closely. Her eyes narrowed, a mix of suspicion and fear visible. "Why would humans help me?" she asked, her voice gaining strength. "Because it was the right thing to do," Aiden replied simply, hoping his sincerity would bridge the vast cultural gap between them. Illyria looked at him, her expression unreadable. After a long pause, she spoke again. "My name is Illyria, Princess Illyria of the Zelthor Empire, and I believe I owe you my life." Aiden nodded, a faint smile breaking through his stern demeanor. "Maybe so, Princess, but we still need to figure out our next move. And for that, I need to know why your own people would leave you for dead." As Illyria began to recount her story, Aiden listened intently, aware that her words could either spell a new dawn for human-alien relations or plunge them into deeper darkness. Either way, he knew the Vanguard and its crew were now part of a much larger narrative, one that could change the course of history. Back on the bridge of the Vanguard, the atmosphere was tense. Captain Aiden Shaw stood stoically at the helm, his crew poised at their stations, eyes fixed on the vast array of screens displaying the endless expanse of space. "Captain, we have an incoming ship. It's big, and it's moving fast," announced Mika, her voice steady despite the underlying urgency. "Identify," Aiden commanded, his eyes narrowing as he turned toward the main viewport. "It's a Zelthor warship, sir, no doubt coming for the princess," Harlan added, analyzing the incoming data. Aiden clenched his jaw. "Options? We could jump to hyperspace, try to lose them in the nebula of Orion," Jenkins suggested, his fingers dancing over the controls. "No, they'll just track us through it. We need to buy some time," Aiden replied, his mind racing through scenarios. "Let's prepare for evasive maneuvers. Mika, send a distress signal to the nearest Federation outpost. Let them know we have a Zelthor Royal on board and are being pursued," Aiden ordered, turning to face his crew. "Aye, Captain," Mika responded, her fingers swiftly moving across her console to broadcast the message. The Zelthor warship was rapidly closing in. "They're hailing us, Captain," Mika updated, her voice tense. "On screen," Aiden said, stepping forward to face the communication panel. The screen flickered to life, revealing the stern face of a Zelthor commander. "Human vessel, you are harboring a fugitive of the Zelthor Empire. Surrender the princess immediately, and you will be spared," the commander boomed, his voice echoing through the bridge. "We found the princess injured and abandoned. We saved her life. She is under our protection," Aiden replied calmly, standing firm despite the growing risk. "Foolish humans. You meddle in affairs you do not understand. Prepare to be boarded," the commander retorted before cutting the transmission. "Looks like talking won't do us any good," Harlan muttered, checking his weapon systems. "Prepare for defensive maneuvers. Jenkins, take us into the asteroid field. If we can't outrun them, we'll outmaneuver them," Aiden ordered, pointing to the star map displayed on the main screen. The Vanguard veered off its course, plunging into the dense asteroid field. The ship jolted as minor debris clanged against the hull. "Shields holding, but this won't be easy," Jenkins said, focusing intensely as he navigated through the tumbling rocks. "Keep it tight, Jenkins. Harlan, ready all defensive systems. We're not handing her over without a fight," Aiden said, his voice resolute. As they maneuvered through the field, the Zelthor ship pursued relentlessly, its superior size making it clumsier among the asteroids. We're making it hard for them to get a clear shot, Mika exclaimed, monitoring the pursuing ship's attempts to lock onto their position. Good. Keep them guessing. Jenkins, take us deeper, Aiden commanded, his eyes locked on the viewport, watching the asteroids fly by at breakneck speed. With each evasive twist and turn, the Vanguard seemed to dance just out of reach of the zeolor warship's grasp. The crew worked in perfect unison, each member expertly performing their role under immense pressure. After what felt like hours, the density of the asteroid field began to thin. We're almost clear of the field, Jenkins announced, relief in his voice. Prepare to make the jump to hyperspace as soon as we're out. Let's put some real distance between us and them, Aiden said, ready to end this chase. As they cleared the last of the asteroids, the Vanguard's engines roared to life, propelling them forward. The stars stretched into lines as they entered hyperspace, leaving the frustrated zeolor warship far behind. Aiden let out a long breath, feeling the tension ebb away for a moment. Well done, everyone. Let's hope that buys us enough time to figure out our next move, he said, turning to his crew, who each wore expressions of relief mixed with lingering concern. As the reality of their situation sank in, Aiden knew that the road ahead would be fraught with danger. They had evaded immediate capture, but the implications of their actions would reach far beyond this moment of respite. The Vanguard and its crew were now deeply entangled in a complex web of interstellar politics and conflict, with a zeolor princess at the center of it all. In the quiet aftermath of their escape into hyperspace, Captain Aiden Shaw visited the medical bay to check on Princess Illyria. Dr. Lena Reed, who had been monitoring Illyria's condition closely, greeted him with a nod. She's awake and stable, Captain, she informed him as they approached the bed where Illyria lay. Illyria's eyes, reflecting a deep celestial blue, fixed on Aiden as he approached. She seemed more composed than before, the gravity of her situation evidently weighing on her. Captain Shaw, she began, her voice steadier, I owe you my gratitude. You've risked much to save me. Aiden nodded, acknowledging her thanks with a brief smile. You mentioned your brother's coup before you passed out. What happened exactly? Illyria took a deep breath, her gaze shifting away momentarily as if gathering the strength to recount the painful memories. My brother, Prince Kirin, has always harbored extreme views about the superiority of our race and the threats posed by others, especially humans. When our father planned to propose a peace treaty with the Terran Federation, Kirin saw it as betrayal. He staged a coup, claiming the throne for himself and declaring those loyal to our father as traitors, myself included. Her words painted a picture of a deeply divided royal family caught in a struggle that extended beyond mere power. He attempted to assassinate me to consolidate his claim, Illyria continued, her voice faltering slightly. I escaped, but barely. Aiden processed the information, the strategic implications clear. Your survival could disrupt his plans. We need to get you somewhere safe, somewhere your brother can't reach you. Illyria nodded. I must contact loyalists within the Empire. They would rally to me if they knew I lived. But I need your help, Captain. Will you aid me still, knowing the danger it invites? Aiden didn't hesitate. We've come this far, Princess. We'll see it through. What do you need? We need a secure communication channel, one that won't be intercepted by my brother's forces, she said, her gaze meeting his with a fierce determination. Mika, Aiden called out into his comlink. Meet me in the communications bay. We have work to do. In the communications bay, Mika was already setting up the necessary encryptions as Aiden and Illyria entered. We're using a scrambled quantum signal. It should be secure from any prying ears, Mika explained, adjusting the settings on her console. Illyria provided the coordinates of her loyalist contacts, and Mika initiated the transmission. The waiting was the hardest part, each second stretching out endlessly as they awaited a response. Finally, the console beeped, a signal coming through. The screen flickered, and the face of a zeolor general appeared. His eyes widened in disbelief. Princess Illyria, you live! Yes, General Varro, Illyria responded with a composed urgency. I am alive and seeking asylum. We must act swiftly if we are to restore the rightful governance and prevent a war with the humans. General Varro nodded solemnly. Understood, Your Highness. We will prepare for your return and rally the loyal forces. Be safe. We will be ready for your signal. As the communication ended, Aiden turned to Illyria. Looks like you've got yourself an army waiting. Illyria's lips curled into a small, hopeful smile. Thanks to you, Captain Shaw. But the hardest part lies ahead. Returning to Zelthor and confronting my brother will not be without risks. We'll plan every step carefully, Aiden reassured her. You've got the Vanguard and her crew with you. We'll see this through to the end. The alliance, though born of necessity and framed by peril, had now deepened into a mutual commitment. Aiden and his crew, once mere wanderers of the galaxy, were now pivotal players in a galactic drama that could very well reshape the power structures of the known universe. As they set their course towards Zelthor, each member of the crew understood the gravity of the mission. They were not just fighting for the survival of a princess, but potentially for the peace of an entire region of space. The Vanguard approached Mars with the red planet looming large and foreboding ahead. Captain Aiden Shaw's thoughts were on the complex political chessboard that lay before him. As they entered orbit, his communications officer, Mika, relayed the latest updates. "We've been cleared for docking at the Allied Space Command Center, Captain," she reported, her tone carrying a hint of unease. "Thank you, Mika. Keep the comm lines open and monitor for any unusual activity," Aiden instructed, knowing that their arrival was likely to stir more than just bureaucratic interest. As the ship docked, the weight of their situation settled in. Mars, a bustling hub of interstellar diplomacy and trade, was also a nest of espionage and political intrigue. Aiden and his crew were about to step into a vortex of hidden agendas and covert operations. No sooner had the docking clamps locked into place than a squad of Terran security officers boarded the Vanguard. "Captain Aiden Shaw?" The squad leader, a stern-looking officer named Commander Stoltz, addressed him directly. "That's me," Aiden responded, stepping forward. "You and your crew are to come with us. You're being detained on charges of interfering in Zelthorian affairs and unauthorized transportation of a royal member of the Zelthorian Empire," Stoltz declared, his voice echoing slightly in the ship's cargo bay. Aiden's crew exchanged wary glances, but Aiden raised his hand to halt any protests. "We'll comply, but know this, we saved the princess's life. She was left for dead." Commander Stoltz seemed unmoved. "That will be for the court to decide. Please, come quietly." As they were escorted through the bustling spaceport, Aiden caught sight of Zelthorian diplomats conversing with Terran officials. It was clear that his decision to save Princess Illyria had caught the attention of powers both feared and respected. Illyria, who walked silently beside Aiden, leaned in slightly. "I fear I have brought you into a storm from which there is no shelter," she murmured, her voice low. "We knew it wouldn't be easy," Aiden reassured her softly, although the sight of the high-security detention center looming ahead did little to ease his concern. Once inside, they were separated. Aiden was taken to an interrogation room where he faced a panel of both Terran and Zelthorian representatives. The questions were sharp, aimed more at ascertaining his political inclinations than the facts of the rescue. "Why did you choose to intervene in a clearly internal Zelthorian matter?" one of the Terran diplomats asked, peering over her glasses. "We couldn't just leave her to die," Aiden replied firmly, his resolve unshaken despite the hostile atmosphere. "Would you abandon someone to certain death because of politics?" His answer seemed to frustrate the panel, but it was the Zelthorian ambassador's next move that changed everything. "We demand that the princess be returned to us immediately. She is a fugitive and a traitor to her people." Aiden's heart sank as he realized the gravity of the situation. The hearing was a farce, a means to an end to deliver Illyria back to her brother's deadly grasp. After hours of relentless questioning, Aiden was returned to his cell, where he was left to ponder the dire circumstances. It was then that the unexpected happened. Late into the night, the door to his cell opened quietly, and two figures stepped in, the last people he expected to see. "Captain Shaw, we're here to get you out," whispered Lieutenant Harlan with Jenkins at his side, both in disguise. "How did you—" "No time," Jenkins cut in. "We have a plan, but we need to move now if we're going to save the princess and get off this rock." Fueled by a mix of adrenaline and resolve, Aiden followed them out of the cell through a meticulously planned escape route. Every corner turned could have been their last, but fortune favored their daring. Their immediate goal was clear: rescue Illyria from the Zelthorian embassy before she could be extradited, a mission that was about to put their courage and cunning to the ultimate test. Under the cover of darkness, Captain Aiden Shaw, Lieutenant Harlan, and Jenkins moved stealthily through the maze of corridors within the Mars Spaceport security complex. The tension was palpable. Each turn and shadow could spell capture, or worse. "Where's Illyria being held?" Aiden whispered as they ducked behind a cargo container in one of the service tunnels that connected the various parts of the spaceport. Intel says she's in a secure room within the Zelthorian embassy section, heavily guarded, Harlan responded, checking the map on his handheld device. We've got about 15 minutes before the next guard rotation. Let's not waste any time then, Aiden said, leading the way with a determined stride. Navigating through the labyrinth of the spaceport required a combination of Harlan's knowledge of security protocols and Jenkins's technical prowess. Jenkins had hacked into the spaceport's maintenance systems, temporarily disabling surveillance cameras along their route at critical junctures. As they approached the Zelthorian embassy, the stark, imposing facade of the building loomed before them. It was designed in the grand Zelthorian architectural style, sleek, angular, and intimidating. Here we go, Jenkins muttered as he attached a small, sophisticated device to the electronic lock of the back entrance. Within seconds, the lock clicked open silently. The trio slipped inside, their movements now even more cautious. The interior of the embassy was dimly lit, the walls adorned with elaborate tapestries depicting Zelthorian history, a stark contrast to the cold, utilitarian corridors they had just traversed. Harlan led them to a secured door at the end of a long hallway. "This is it," he whispered. "She should be on the other side." Aiden nodded, signaling Jenkins to work on the door. Meanwhile, he turned to Harlan. "Once we're in, grab Illyria and head back the way we came. I'll cover our exit." Jenkins gave a soft grunt of affirmation as the lock disengaged. Gently pushing the door open, they found Princess Illyria seated on a small cot, her posture regal despite the circumstances. Her eyes widened in a mixture of surprise and relief as she saw Aiden. "Captain Shaw," she breathed, rising to her feet. "No time for pleasantries, Princess. We're getting you out of here," Aiden said quickly, helping her to her feet. The escape from the embassy was fraught with close calls. They narrowly avoided patrols and had to hide in shadows more than once, each heartbeat thundering loudly in their ears. As they retraced their steps back to the maintenance tunnels, the sound of alarms began to fill the air. Word of their intrusion had finally gotten out. "This way!" Harlan led them through an alternative route, a shortcut through less frequented service areas. They were almost out when they encountered a pair of Zelthorian guards. Without hesitation, Aiden and Harlan engaged the guards. The scuffle was brief but intense, with Aiden disarming one guard while Harlan knocked out the other with a swift move. Grabbing the fallen guard's keys, Aiden quickly unlocked the final door to freedom. Once outside, the cold Martian air hit them like a shockwave, but there was no time to acclimate. Sirens wailed in the distance as they made a beeline for a prearranged extraction point where Jenkins had hidden a small, unmarked shuttle. As they boarded the shuttle, Illyria looked back at the chaos they were leaving behind. "Thank you," she said, her voice filled with gratitude and newfound determination. "Now let's return to Zelthor and end this." Aiden nodded, feeling the weight of their next steps. As Jenkins fired up the engines and the shuttle lifted off from the Martian surface, Aiden knew that their actions this night would change the course of an empire. But for now, they had a princess to return and a coup to stop. The shuttle carrying Captain Aiden Shaw, Princess Illyria, Lieutenant Harlan, and Jenkins hurtled through space, racing back toward Zelthor with the urgency of their mission weighing heavily on them. As they approached the planet, the looming silhouette of Zelthor's capital came into view, its spires and towers casting long shadows over the land below. "We're entering Zelthorian airspace," Jenkins announced, his voice tense as he adjusted the shuttle's trajectory to avoid detection. "I've set us on a descent path that should keep us under their radar for now." Aiden nodded, his gaze fixed on the viewport. "Once we land, we'll meet with General Varro and the Loyalist forces. They're our best chance to get Illyria safely to the palace." Illyria, clad in a simple yet elegant outfit that bore no hint of her royal status, looked out at her home planet with a mixture of resolve and sorrow. "My brother will be expecting some sort of move. We must be swift and decisive." The shuttle touched down in a secluded area on the outskirts of the capital, where the Loyalist forces, led by General Varro, were already waiting. The general, a stern, battle-hardened veteran, greeted them with a firm salute. "Princess Illyria, it is good to see you alive and well. We are ready to do whatever is necessary to restore you to the throne and bring peace to our people," he declared, his voice booming with authority. Illyria nodded. "Thank you, General. My brother's reign has caused enough suffering. It's time to end this." The plan was simple, yet fraught with peril. They would lead a covert assault on the palace at dawn, using a series of underground tunnels that were unknown to most but the royal family and their closest protectors. Aiden and Harlan were to assist Illyria and the Loyalists, providing tactical support and ensuring the princess's safety. As night deepened, the group made their preparations, checking their equipment and reviewing the palace's blueprints. The air was thick with anticipation. Every moment brought them closer to the confrontation that awaited. Dawn broke with a crimson hue, casting a blood-red light over the city as if foreshadowing the struggle to come. They moved silently through the tunnels, the only sound the soft echo of their footsteps on the cold stone floor. They emerged in the lower levels of the palace, where the Loyalist forces quickly overcame the few guards present. Aiden and Harlan stayed close to Illyria, their weapons at the ready. The palace was eerily quiet as they ascended toward the throne room. When they finally burst through the doors, they found Prince Kirin sitting on the throne, surrounded by his elite guards. "So, the lost princess returns," Kirin sneered, rising to his feet, "and she brings humans to fight her battles." Illyria stepped forward, her posture regal and unflinching. "I bring justice, Kirin. Your reign ends today." A fierce battle ensued. Aiden and Harlan fought side by side with the Loyalists, pushing back against Kirin's guards with a ferocity born of desperation. The clash of energy weapons filled the air, a chaotic symphony of resistance against tyranny. In the midst of the fray, Illyria confronted her brother, their personal battle a tumultuous clash of both physical and emotional turmoil. Eventually, Illyria disarmed Kirin, her weapon pointed squarely at him as the remaining guards were subdued. "Surrender, Kirin. It's over," Illyria declared, her voice echoing through the now silent throne room. Defeated, Kirin dropped to his knees, his head bowed. "Do what you must," he muttered, his voice broken. Illyria turned to her Loyalists. "Take him away. He will stand trial for his crimes against our people." As Kirin was led away, Illyria approached Aiden and Harlan. "Without your bravery, this could not have been possible. My people owe you a great debt." Aiden nodded, relief washing over him. "It was our honor, Your Highness. Today, you've begun a new chapter for Zelthor." The battle for the throne was over, but the work of rebuilding would soon begin. For Aiden, Harlan, and the crew of the Vanguard, their journey had forged unexpected bonds, proving once more that humanity's reach and resolve extended far beyond the stars they navigated. They had not only changed the course of an empire, but had also paved the way for a new era of understanding in the galaxy. In the aftermath of Prince Kirin's downfall, the halls of Zelthor's grand palace were abuzz with activity and an air of rejuvenation. Princess Illyria, now rightfully restored as the ruler of Zelthor, stood at the forefront of a nation on the cusp of monumental change. Beside her, Captain Aiden Shaw and his crew were honored guests, witnesses to the dawning of a new era. The coronation ceremony was nothing short of magnificent. The palace's great hall, a stunning display of Zelthorian architecture with soaring ceilings and intricate mosaics, was filled with dignitaries from across the galaxy. As Illyria was crowned, a roar of approval echoed through the chamber, symbolizing not just the restoration of a rightful ruler, but the promise of a brighter future. After the ceremony, a grand banquet was held in the palace gardens under the twin moons of Zelthor. Aiden, dressed in the ceremonial garb provided to him, stood with Harlan and Jenkins, taking in the scene. "Never thought I'd end up at a royal banquet, let alone on an alien planet," Jenkins remarked, his eyes wide as he observed alien dignitaries mingling with human officers. "It's a testament to what we can achieve when we're driven by the right cause," Harlan responded, clapping Aiden on the shoulder. Illyria approached them, her regal attire shimmering under the celestial light. "Captain Shaw, I cannot express my gratitude enough. What you and your crew have done for Zelthor goes beyond mere assistance. You've helped save an entire world." Aiden nodded, his expression solemn. "It was the right thing to do, Your Highness. Seeing your world embrace a new path is all the thanks we need." Illyria smiled, then turned her gaze to the assembly of guests. "With peace restored, it's time to look forward. I intend to open diplomatic channels with the Terran Federation. Captain, would you be our ambassador? No one else understands both our worlds as you do." Aiden was taken aback by the offer. He glanced at his crew, seeing their pride in his accomplishment. After a moment of contemplation, he replied, "It would be an honor, Your Highness. Building a bridge between our peoples is a challenge I would gladly accept." The night progressed with celebrations that melded Zelthorian traditions with human curiosities. Music from both cultures filled the air, creating a symphony of unity that resonated with all present. Later, as the twin moons climbed higher in the sky, Aiden stood at the edge of the garden, reflecting on the journey that had brought him here. Harlan joined him, handing him a drink. "It's been quite the adventure, hasn't it?" Harlan said, gazing up at the stars. "It has," Aiden agreed, his thoughts drifting to the vast expanse they had traversed. "And it's not over yet. Diplomacy, bridging two cultures, there's a lot of work ahead. But for tonight, we celebrate," Harlan concluded, raising his glass. Aiden raised his own in agreement, his eyes meeting those of Princess Illyria across the garden. A mutual understanding passed between them, a recognition of the shared path they would now walk together. As the celebration continued around them, Aiden felt a profound sense of accomplishment and anticipation. With the Vanguard and her crew by his side and a new alliance on the horizon, the future held unlimited possibilities. They had not only navigated the stars, but had also steered the course of history, proving that humanity's place in the galaxy was not just as explorers or warriors, but as peacemakers and allies in the vast cosmic arena.